We are going to talk about chapter 1, just some of the theories that I would like you to, or some of the points in the chapter that I'd like you to focus on. So chapter 1 really goes into the timeline of child development. So the first 4 chapters will focus on the conception, prenatal period, and newborn. And then the way this book is kind of created is that all of the infancy chapters are together in developmental domains. And so you'll see about what that is. The developmental domains are physical development, cognitive, and social and emotional. And so each of the domains are broken up into infancy, early childhood, which is preschooler, middle childhood, which is school age, and then adolescence. So this class really goes pre-birth or conception through age 18. Some of the basic issues that we'll be looking at in this class is theories. So this class is very close to psychology. In fact, one of our classes, Child Development 38, is cross-listed as a psychology class as well. And that class is a little bit different in that it doesn't go 0 to 18, it goes 0 to death or through old age. So this class stops at age 18. But we are going to look at a lot of theories, and especially in this first chapter, we're going to look at a lot of theories. And in this next chapters, we will look at how those theories actually play out in early childhood or infancy or middle childhood or adolescent, depending on the theorist. There is a bit of a nature or nurture controversy. I'm sure you've heard about that. Is that nature or is it nurture? Is it nature that we were born with it through our DNA, or is it nurture through our environment and how we are raised? As we'll find out throughout the book, you'll see that both play a part, and depending on what you're talking about, some will play more of a part. Nature may play more of a part than nurture in some instances, and in some instances nurture may play a big part. Another one is continuous versus discontinuous. So many theorists believe that there is a continuous mode of development, so that once we're born, we are continuously developing and learning and changing. Discontinuous theorists believe that something happens, usually biologically, something happens that we are thrown into a next stage. So say age 2, you started to be able to walk well, biologically you are able to hold your potty, that kind of thing. And so you're in now a different stage of your development. And then development in different domains is connected. So when I listed out the domains, that's physical, cognitive, social, and emotional. Those are all interconnected within each other. So we don't cognitively develop without also socially or emotionally developing. So there's always something, it's always interconnected. And then the last thing is the 5 major theorists that we're going to, or theories or perspectives that we're going to talk about. And the first one is psychoanalytical, and all of this is in your book. You can look at the different stages. And in the stages of psychoanalytical, Erikson and Freud are usually the most known for this theory. The second is the learning perspective, and this is where you'll find your Bandura or Skinner. This is the behavioral and social cognitive theories. I'm sure you've heard of classical conditioning or operant conditioning in psychology when you took that in high school or in college. The third is the cognitive perspective, and this is mainly Piaget is our biggest influence for the cognitive perspective, and we'll learn a lot about Piaget and his theories in this class. The fourth is the biological perspective. The fifth is the ecological perspective, which is Bronfenbrenner, which we study a lot in Child Development 30. And then the last is socio-cultural perspective. So the last two, the ecological and the socio-cultural, those kind of go together. Socioculture is Vygotsky's theory. And make sure you read chapter 1 to understand all of those theorists that I just named. So how do we study child development? How do we gather information? A lot of it we do through standardized tests, which is admittedly not the best way to get information because standardized tests have a lot of inherent problems with it, especially when we are looking at socioeconomic areas that are taking tests as well as different ethnic backgrounds. Naturalistic observation. If I go to a park and study children in their natural environment playing, that would be a naturalistic observation. A case study would be over time, and it would be 1 or 2 children. Correlation, experiment, longitudinal, you probably heard about that, cross-sectional, and cross-sequential. So make sure you look up those terms in your book to find out what those are all about. We actually, in the Child Development Lab School here on Clovis Community College, we ask the children to come up with theories or hypotheses. So a prediction is often drawn from a theory. So you can either test a prediction of one theory against that of another, test a prediction of one theory, or start with a research question if there is no theory. And so with the children, we actually start with a research question. Why do you believe this happens? An example of that is that we gave the children in one of the preschool classrooms, we gave them cups and some seeds to grow beans. And we asked the children, what do you need for your beans to grow the best? And so children made a prediction. They said, I believe that I will need dirt and I need to water it every day. One child said they needed flour, which the teacher let them put the flour in, like baking flour, in their cup with the seeds. And that, by the way, did not turn out well, and it was very stinky, and they had to throw it away after a couple weeks. But one child said wood chips out in the playground. They wanted wood chips in their beans. And actually, when the children looked and studied, and they wrote down what their hypothesis was or what their theory was of which one would grow fast, the one that had the wood chips in it did grow the fastest. So what do you know? They came up with a theory that I would not have come up with and tested it, and it worked. In your assignment, questions 6 and 7, you're going to watch some videos on ethical considerations. But when we think about testing with children, we cannot test children or practice theories on them in a way that we can with adults because they're not able to consent. So the biggest thing is do no physical or psychological harm. Informed consent is needed from guardians if they are minors. So always with children, you have to have a parent or guardian signature of consent. But again, this is a kind of a tricky question. The child is not giving consent. And so what does that look like when they are being tested or used for a psychological theory? Participation must be voluntary. Participants can withdraw from a study at any time for any reasons. Participants should be offered information about the results of the study, and they always are remained confidential. The names are confidential. And then research plans should be presented to a committee of colleagues for approval before proceeding. So you have the some accountability saying, well, maybe this is actually doing harm. And so when we talk about doing harm, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're physically harming somebody, but psychologically, it can be harming in their development when they're younger. And then, of course, you always want to communicate the results. And that's it. Make sure you read chapter 1.